Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome to Signals and Standards with Suzie, the show where we decode mixed messages, raise the bar, and serve up real talk with a side of empowerment. I'm your host, Suzie, your go-to for truth bombs, clarity, and the kind of tough love that gets you unstuck and back in the driver's seat of your life. Together, let's turn those signals into action. Welcome back to Signals and Standards with Suzie, where we read the signals, raise the standards, and reclaim our worth. You know, as the year winds down, there's quiet energy that fills the air, that mix of exhaustion, reflection, and hope. We start thinking about everything we've been through. Anyone else can't wait for this year to be over? The lessons, maybe, the losses, some wins, and of course the what ifs. And somewhere between the chaos of wrapping up the year and the excitement of what's next, we all start to feel that little tug, that little whisper asking, what am I still holding on to that's holding me back? Maybe it's a relationship or friendship that's run its course, but you're afraid to release it fully. Maybe it's guilt over what didn't happen or regret for what did. You know, the shoulda, woulda, couldas. Maybe it's the version of you that played small to keep the peace with others. Or maybe you weren't confident enough. Whatever it is, today's episode, we're going to be talking about releasing and resetting. So what you can do to let go before next year. It's your invitation to pause, reflect, and release. Because, before you can move forward, you have to clear the path. Before you can start fresh, you have to make peace with what's behind you. This episode is just as much for me as it is for you. We all struggle with this at some level. And trust me, I get it. Letting go is not easy. It's not just about saying goodbye to people or situations. Sometimes it's about releasing parts of your own self that once protected you, but they're no longer serving you. So whether it's emotional baggage, people who no longer align, habits that drain your energy, or maybe those outdated stories you keep telling yourself, this is your moment to let it all go. You've carried enough this year, and it's time to put it down. Stay with me because by the end of this episode, you'll have the clarity, the tools, and the mindset to step into the new year lighter, freer, and more aligned than ever before. Letting go isn't just a catchy end-of-year buzzword. It's an act of emotional self-care, a radical expression of self-trust, and really, it's one of the deepest forms of empowerment that you can practice. Every year, we tell ourselves that the new year will bring change, that things will finally shift, and that we'll finally be happier, lighter, maybe more aligned. But here's the truth. Most people don't talk about this. You cannot create space for the new if you're still carrying the weight of the old. You cannot step fully into your potential if your hands are full of what no longer serves you. Letting go isn't a superficial act. It's what some experts call emotional feng shui. It's clearing the clutter of old hurts, outdated stories, and energy-draining habits so that you can make room for clarity, peace, and growth. Emotional feng shui is essentially a cleansing practice that creates space for inspiration, creativity, and even some abundance. Essentially, experts say that when we let go, we make room for new energy, some more creativity, some inspiration. Imagine your heart as a room, for example. Every old resentment, every regret, every should have is a piece of furniture that no longer fits. We are reminded that empowerment doesn't start with adding more to your life. It begins with courageously shedding what's holding you back. The more you let go, the more open the room becomes for sunlight, fresh air, and even the experiences you've been longing for. According to others, closure is not about pretending everything is perfect or neatly tied up. Closure is about creating space for possibility. One coach writes, every ending is an opportunity to rewrite your story. And isn't that the truth? When we stop forcing endings and controlling outcomes, we create room for fresh beginnings, sometimes unexpected, and you know what? It's often very transformative. We're reminded that at the end of the year, it's a powerful, energetic portal, a threshold for reflection, for forgiveness, for renewal. Some recommend journaling to help through the process, asking questions that reflect on the past, the present, and the future. So, what are you leaving behind? What are you proud of from this year? And what do you want to invite for next year? These aren't just journaling prompts, they're emotional mirrors. They help you identify where you're holding on unnecessarily and where you can celebrate your growth. So often we underestimate the power of acknowledgement, of noticing the lessons learned and the obstacles we've overcome. Om Tara calls this process a reset of your inner landscape. I love that imagery. Envisioning your emotional world as a garden. Some plants need pruning, some weeds need pulling, and some seeds you planted long ago are ready to bloom. Letting go isn't forgetting, it's detaching your self-worth from what you have that didn't work out. It's understanding that circumstances or other people's choices don't define your value. Some experts describe end of year rituals as acts that cleanse the soul and strengthen love. Not just love for others, but self love and compassion. One that resonated with me involves small rituals like writing a letter to release pain, burning what no longer serves you, or simply speaking out loud what you're ready to release. These acts may feel symbolic, but they carry real energetic and emotional weight. They signal to your subconscious and your nervous system that it's time to stop carrying the past. And you know, science even backs this up. Psychologists underscore that emotional release isn't just psychological, it's physiological. Holding on to unprocessed emotions like grief, resentment, or guilt keeps your nervous system in survival mode. You might feel restless, anxious, or exhausted, and it isn't always about your schedule or obligations. It's about unresolved emotional weight. Releasing these feelings, perhaps through journaling, therapy, conversation, or even mindful reflection, helps your body regulate the signals that you are safe, that it's okay to relax, that it's safe to move forward. So you're making these new signals for your body. According to positive psychology, letting go is a process and it's not an event. It involves aspects such as awareness, acceptance, and action. Awareness, for example, is recognizing what you're still holding on to, even if it's subtle, like self doubt or even resentment. Acceptance is acknowledging the past as it is, without judgment, without trying to fix it or change it. Action, on the other hand, it's intentionally choosing daily practices to release what no longer serves you and prioritizing your peace. Letting go is not about rushing or forcing yourself to move on. It's about cultivating a daily intentional habit of choosing freedom over fear and self-compassion over self-blame. Some days will be easy, some days will be hard. And you know what? That's okay. It's a practice, not a perfection test, and it takes time. At the heart of all of this is one truth I often remind my clients and readers, and really myself. you cannot receive what's meant for you if your hands are full of what's not. Let me repeat that. You cannot receive what's meant for you if your hands are full of what's not. Every moment you cling to old patterns, toxic relationships, or painful memories, you are giving up space that could be filled with clarity, joy, and growth. So as you reflect on this past year, take a moment to ask yourself, what am I still carrying that isn't mine anymore? Which outdated stories am I ready to release? What would my life feel like if I stopped apologizing for who I've been and started celebrating who I'm becoming? Release isn't about erasing your history. It's about freeing your future. It's about walking into the next chapter lighter, freer, and fully aligned with the person that you're meant to be. This is your invitation to let go. Not because it's easy, but because your peace, growth, and happiness are worth it. So take a moment and breathe with me. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you can, and it's safe to do so, and feel the weight you've been carrying, the regrets, the should-haves, the people, the habits, the old stories. Acknowledge them. Name them. Let yourself feel them fully. And now, imagine setting them down. Picture your hands opening and releasing this old energy that no longer serves you. Notice how your chest feels a little lighter, your shoulders a little less tense. This is the first step towards creating space. Space for clarity, joy, growth, and even possibilities that the new year is quietly waiting to bring. Remember, release isn't a one-time act. It's a choice you make over and over. And today, right now, you are choosing freedom. As we let this thought settle, I invite you to take a few more breaths and reflect. What is one thing I can release today to step into next year lighter and freer? Hold that intention with you because next we'll start answering your questions, the real life relatable ones that you've sent in about letting go, moving forward, and reclaiming your energy. Thank you for joining us. Now we'll be answering some listener questions. Remember, you can always send in your own questions at powercoachsuzie.com. I love hearing from you. Here's our first question. I know I should let go of my ex, but part of me still hopes they'll come back. How do I actually move on? This is such a common struggle, and it's completely human to feel torn. Emotional attachment doesn't vanish overnight, especially if you invested time, energy, and love into someone. That lingering hope, the what if, is emotional residue. I often talk about recognizing that residue without judging yourself for it. You're not weak for feeling it. You're human. We all experience this. Remember, however, that closure is an internal process. You don't need someone else to give it to you. Closure comes when you stop rereading the same chapter and start acknowledging that your story is moving forward. One technique is to separate memory from meaning. So appreciate the lessons this person brought, the boundaries they helped you define, the ways they taught you about your own value, or even the fun you had together. But then release the fantasy of what could have been. Things crumbled for a reason, and that reason, it's still there. It didn't change. Another practical tool that I love and I find really helpful is journaling. Write a letter to your ex-lover, ex-friend, or even ex-relationship of any type. Not to send, but to release. Name every feeling, hurt, longing, disappointment, gratitude, even anger. Then physically put it away or ceremoniously burn it as a symbolic gesture. Experts refer to this as a soulful cleansing ritual. And there's real power in physically externalizing your release. Over time, the hope that lingers naturally fades because you've honored your emotions. You've extracted the lessons you needed to learn, and you've consciously chosen your own peace. If you need help with this process, there's no shame in asking for it. Therapy, a trusted friend, a coach, or even a healer can help you sort through your emotions thoughtfully and helpfully. And here's a little secret. Movement comes when you start building new emotional patterns. Spend time investing in things that bring you joy, practicing self-love, and connecting with people who affirm your worth. Every time you redirect energy from the past to the present, you create momentum. The hope for a return naturally diminishes as you start to feel alive again in your own life. That space you created by letting go, it makes room for something bigger and better for you that wouldn't have come if you didn't let go. And isn't that really what you're longing for? Think about it. Here's our second question. I want to start fresh, but I feel guilty for letting go of people who've been in my life for years. Guilt can feel like a leash sometimes, keeping you tied to people, habits, or maybe situations that no longer serve you. You've moved on, but they're still there. Feeling guilty doesn't make you a bad person. It shows that you care, and that's okay. But caring doesn't require sacrificing your peace. We heard earlier that this is referred to as resetting your inner landscape, right? Think of it like pruning a garden. You love the plants, but some need to be cut back to allow the stronger, more vibrant ones to flourish. Letting go doesn't erase love. It doesn't erase friendship. The history is still there. The shared experiences never go away. It simply acknowledges that alignment and compatibility matter more than attachment. So ask yourself, am I holding on out of love or out of fear of loss? Often the answer reveals that attachment is tied to comfort, habit, or fear rather than actual growth. Letting go is like clearing emotional clutter. When you release and cleanse yourself, you're not abandoning anyone. You're choosing yourself. You're choosing your energy, and you're choosing your future. Essentially, you're prioritizing your mental health and well-being. One practical step that some recommend is to write a letting go list. Examples can include letting go of people, patterns, beliefs, or even obligations that weigh you down. Thoughtfully reflect on each one with compassion and say, I honor you, but I release you. You can even pair this with small rituals such as safely lighting a candle, taking a walk outside, or speaking your intentions out loud. Here's another layer. Guilt often hides the truth that you're worthy of freedom and growth. By holding on to guilt, you keep yourself trapped in other people's expectations rather than honoring your own path. Releasing doesn't diminish your care for them. It allows your love to be conscious, not obligatory. When you do this, you create space to experience relationships. You create space for new opportunities and new experiences that truly resonate with the person you are now, not who you were before. Remember that sometimes we outgrow relationships or life changes or events make you incompatible with certain people, and that's okay. It's part of personal growth. Honor it and move on respectfully. You know what? You'll be so happy that you did. Here's our third and final question. At the end of every year, I try to reflect, but I end up overanalyzing everything I did wrong. How do I stop the self-blame and actually feel lighter? Reflection can easily slip into judgment if we're not intentional. I hear this from so many people. They write a list of lessons learned, but it turns out into a long list of, I failed here, I messed up there. And then, instead of feeling empowered, they feel heavier than they were before. So instead, try reframing reflection as recognition, not judgment. Instead of asking, what did I do wrong? Try asking, what can I acknowledge about myself and my growth this year? Journaling can really, really help with that. Remember, we discussed earlier the importance of asking yourself, what am I proud of? What lessons have I learned? What am I ready to invest in and invite next year? Even small wins count. Completing a task you procrastinated, setting boundaries you never thought you could, showing up for yourself. These are all victories. They'll put you on the podium. Believe me. When you write them down, you signal to your mind and your body that growth is real, that progress exists, and that your year wasn't wasted, even if it wasn't perfect. Psychology explains that unresolved emotions can have a physical impact on the body. Guilt, self-blame, regrets, they all trigger stress responses that leave us tense or anxious or exhausted and drained. Releasing isn't just symbolic, it allows your nervous system to settle. Pair reflection with ritual. Write down what you're ready to release, say it out loud, or even perform a symbolic act like crumpling the paper and letting it go. This bridges the mind, body, and heart in a really tangible way. And that's something that we need. Finally, remember the guidance of positive psychology. Letting go is a layered process involving awareness, acceptance, and action. Awareness is noticing what is actually weighing you. Acceptance is acknowledging that the past can't be rewritten. It is what it is. And action is choosing every day to redirect attention to peace, growth, and joy. Some days will be harder, of course, but with every moment you practice, you release compounds that lead to absolute emotional freedom. By changing how you reflect, you can transform self-blame into self-recognition, turning a habit that once drained you into one that empowers you. You'll step into the new year not burdened, but lighter, freer, and fully aligned with your growth. So let's take a moment to think about the questions we just explored. The moments where hope lingers, guilt tugs at your heart, or reflection turns into self-blame. Notice those feelings without judgment. Observe them. This is where transformation begins, in awareness, self-awareness. Now imagine someone beside you, not a judgmental critic, but a compassionate coach, a trusted friend, or even your future self, gently guiding you. What would they say? They'd remind you that letting go is not a single act, it's a journey. It's a practice, a series of small intentional steps that create significant change over time. In the next segment, I want to bring this concept to life. I'm going to share a conversation from a recent client session, a story about someone who felt stuck, like they were spinning their wheels despite trying new things. We'll talk about how small intentional steps, self-care, and strategic goal setting can shift the entire trajectory of your life. And because I know the power of vulnerability, I'll also share a personal story, my own struggle with letting go of trauma and particularly challenging year. Because the truth is, growth isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, being honest with ourselves, and taking the steps, even tiny ones, that move us towards freedom. Thank you for joining us. I would now like to share a relevant discussion from a recent client session, because sometimes hearing someone else's journey makes your own feel possible. This client came to me feeling completely stuck, unable to let go of a challenging relationship interaction that they had with someone. They had tried new routines, new hobbies, and even new relationships, but nothing seemed to make a difference. They described it as spinning my wheels in quicksand while the world moves forward. They tried to move on, but they found it extremely difficult. It was eating at them. Sound familiar? It's a feeling many of us experience, especially as the year draws to a close. We try to force change without first clearing the internal blocks that keep us tethered. We begin by examining what they were carrying and why they were holding on. Not just emotionally, but energetically. Often we try to move forward while our hands are full with other things, such as old regrets, lingering guilt, past disappointments, and even trauma. It's like trying to run a race while holding a backpack filled with bricks. You can sprint for a while, but eventually the exhaustion is going to set in. The trick is figuring out what those bricks hold. Our first step was self-care, setting intentional practices that nurture the nervous system and rebuild trust in oneself. We explored grounding exercises, breath work, and micro moments of reflection that can be incorporated into daily practice. It doesn't have to be complicated. There are many YouTube videos out there with short and long meditations on any subject, as well as affirmations that you can repeat. These practices, even 5 to 10 minutes a day, gave them space to feel safe, calm, and clear, because you can't release what you can't acknowledge. It put them in a better place, ready to let go and begin the healing process. Next, we mapped out some new goals, starting small. Many people get paralyzed by thinking, I need to fix everything at once. Those big goals are overwhelming. So we created bite-sized goals that build momentum. For example, one small goal might be, today I will journal for 5 minutes about what I'm ready to release. Another might be, I will set a boundary with one person who drains my energy. Or even, this is what I'm grateful for today. These small acts contribute to a larger overarching goal, reclaiming emotional freedom, clarity, and of course, alignment. We also discussed therapy for some underlying issues. Some blocks aren't about habits or willpower. They're tied to past experiences that need professional guidance. The reason why we hold on to some things more than others could be linked to previous experiences or even trauma. Seeking support isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage and self-awareness. It's part of the release process, allowing others to help you process, integrate, and let go of what's weighing you down. And because I want to be honest with you, I'll share a personal moment. This past year has been really challenging for me in many ways. I hadn't really anticipated it because family and personal challenges overtook my life. There was illness, there was a lot of loss. I found myself holding on to even rehashing old trauma, replaying stories that weren't serving me anymore, and feeling exhausted by the weight of unprocessed emotions. When I finally realized the toll it was taking on me emotionally, mentally, and even physically, I decided to face it head on and let go for good. How? It took daily reflection, writing exercises, counting my blessings, and therapy with my fabulous therapist, as well as spiritual healing sessions with my healer to start letting go. And it really helped a lot. I made a conscious decision to change and to let go and to move forward. And that's what's happening. It's not overnight, but it is happening. Some days were easier than others. Sometimes I felt like I had made no progress at all, and really I didn't always move forward. Sometimes I fell back. But slowly, with patience and intentionality, I noticed subtle shifts. My energy feels lighter, my decisions are clearer, my anxiety is decreasing, and my emotional responses are becoming more aligned with my values. It's a work in progress, of course. Healing takes time, and every step forward, even a small one, makes you stronger. The important thing is to keep taking steps, even if you stumble or get stuck along the way. Some things will always be a part of you, and you need to decide whether they have power over you or if you hold the power over them. I decided on the empowered route. Here's the key takeaway. Letting go is not a linear process. Think of it as rhythm. There will be steps forward and sometimes steps back. What matters is showing up consistently for yourself, creating small habits that reinforce your emotional freedom, and celebrating every victory, even the tiny ones. This brings to mind a quote that has stuck with me through the years. The secret of life is to fall 7 times and to get up 8 times. From one of my favorite authors, Paulo Coelho, and one of my favorite books, The Alchemist. Think of it this way. Each small act of release, self-care, or boundary setting is like removing one brick from that heavy backpack. Eventually, the backpack becomes light enough that you can move freely and run towards your goals and fully step into the life waiting for you. So if you're feeling stuck, here's a mini action plan you can start today based on what we discussed. Number 1, self-care moments. So take 10 minutes for yourself. Meditate, journal, or just sit and breathe. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to that I can release today? You want to set one small goal. Pick one area of your life where you can create a micro shift, a boundary, a routine, or even a mindset adjustment, like going for a walk every day or having a mindful moment, whatever works for you. Number 3, seek support if needed. So therapy, coaching, trusted mentors can help you process what you can't release alone. And you want to reflect and celebrate. So acknowledge your progress, even the small wins. This reinforces momentum and rewires your nervous system for freedom rather than fixation. The power in this moment is that you don't have to overhaul everything to start fresh. You need to start. That's all. One intentional release, one small goal, one conscious act of self-care, and you're moving forward. As we wrap up today's episode of Signals and Standards with Suzie, let's take a moment to tie everything together. We've explored the art and power of letting go, not as a trendy end-of-year activity, but as a profound act of self-care and empowerment. From understanding emotional residue and guilt to reflecting without self-blame. Each step we've discussed is designed to help you step into the new year lighter, freer, and more aligned with your true self. We answered real questions from listeners about lingering attachment, the guilt of releasing relationships, and the weight of self-criticism. And we saw that letting go is never a sign of weakness. It's an act of courage. It's the decision to prioritize your energy, your growth, and your peace. We explored practical ways to make this a reality. Grounding exercises, journaling, intentional self-care, setting small goals, and seeking support when needed. Remember, no one can force your release for you, but with consistency, reflection, and the courage to act, you can shed the weight that has been holding you back. And yes, even the seemingly most minor steps matter, because momentum builds quietly and powerfully over time. So, as you go forward, I invite you to anchor yourself with this affirmation, a phrase to carry with you, repeat, and reflect on whatever you feel burdened or uncertain. I release what no longer serves me. Again, I release what no longer serves me. One more time. I release what no longer serves me. Say it out loud, whisper it in your mind, or write it down. Repeat it until you feel the weight lifting from your shoulders. Let it remind you that every choice to release is a choice to reclaim your energy, your joy, and your power. I truly appreciate you joining me today on Signals and Standards with Suzie. I hope this episode provides you with the tools, reflection, and encouragement to let go intentionally and step into the next chapter of your life with clarity and confidence. Join us next week for another empowering discussion, because every week we read the signals, raise the standards, and reclaim our worth together. Thank you for being here and stepping into your power. I look forward to seeing you next week for another empowering conversation. And remember, you can catch this episode and all previous episodes and the upcoming ones on the Signals and Standards podcast on all your favorite platforms. For daily inspiration and practical advice, find me on social media at Power Coach Suzie. Got questions or ideas for the show? Head to powercoachsuzie.com where you can connect with me, explore the blog, or learn more about what I do. This is Suzie signing off. Until next time, keep reading the signals and never, ever lower your standards.